Alright, so, with this out of the way...
Listen up, thugs for less. We got a big job ahead, so pay attention. Megacorp has hired us to protect their CEO, Mr. Fizwidget.
So Megacorp were in fact the ones who hired them.
In his old age and are concerned for his safety.
Why?
The Fizwidget's kind of
Now,
old-fashioned,
apparently
so
it's not the CEO himself, according to this guy. It's someone else within Megacorp who hired them to guard him.
Also,
which this means it's going to be all the more harder for us to talk to him. But now they're targeting us specifically.
I'm offering a free pizza party to the squad who bags them. And remember, that includes drinks and desserts. Over and out.
So this really begs the question, okay, what the hell is going on? Megacorp hired us. And as far as they know, like, they don't know that we're signing with Angela yet.
Anyway, Boldan is basically your typical, you know, metropolitan, you know, planet. A bit similar to the one where Ratchet and Clank had the apartment, but still different enough.
I'm trying to remember, what's the trope name for when a power-up that's supposed to be an upgrade to a weapon ends up downgrading it instead?
Power-up letdown?
That might be it. It's just like, it's weird when something that's supposed to upgrade an item downgrades it. Like, it's like, I feel like, shouldn't that come up in the playtesting most of all? Also, I'm walking or flying here! I may not be specifically in New York City, but trust me, New Yorker.
Now this is jetpack racing.
Although I will say, having traveled to Africa, having to weave in and out for moving traffic, yeah, that's how it was in some market areas.
Alright, so at the very least, where does this lead us?
To paradise.
Well, no, not really. To a proper area where we start confronting the tax for less. But if I recall correctly, before that, there's another grind rail section that we can do. There we go. Again with these giant ladders. Although in this case, as you can see, it's not just a simple cable, but electric cables. So...
yes, I played Sonic Heroes, thank you very much.
Rolling around at the speed of fuck.
Wrong game.
Wrong game.
Now you're thinking, Sonic Heroes!
Yeah, it's kind of a bit like Railway Canyon.
Well, but
it's also like Final Fortress, where you literally have lightning on the grind rails that you have to avoid.
Well, how about this? It's sung by the same singers, so look out down the road. Ratchet is on the go. Can stop this. Yeah. Come on, Java, help me.
Can't stop this party till we save the world.
Well, in this case, the Cosmos, because it's Ratchet.
Is that Team Sonic's theme?
We can, yeah.
Yes,
sung by
we
Ted
can.
Polly and Tony Harnell. Yeah.
So,
But
what's
the
at the
report-
end of the
So-
grind rail
sorry.
section? Another incognito, you know, there you go, call out. So again, in case you did not, you know, find him in a desert, you can do it here.
Always a pleasure to do business.
As you can see, however, I don't have a lot of platinum bolts, so I basically have to choose wisely what I can do.
Okay, on we go.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, this is just in case you want to do with Incognito. There's not even a platinum bolt as a reward. So let's move on to the business at hand, as in fighting the tax for less. And again, these are the more upgraded versions, so they are, you know, a bit tougher. Shit! Shit! Shit!
Well, thank God for ledge grabbing there.
It's like I'm playing Rayman 1 all over again.
Yeah.
Also, this level has a lot of destructible cover, as you can see, in the form of, New Jersey style, cement blocks. But again, it's not too much of a problem to destroy. Like I said, the bouncer is perfect for this kind of, enemy types.
Okay, so I'll admit, as somebody who didn't have a PSP, I'm not as familiar with the PSP titles, but if I recall correctly, the PSP titles, while they're plot adjacent, they were stuff you could afford to miss in the overall
Yes, okay.
canon.
The thing is that they're maybe not set. It's not set specifically where they take place in, but the general speculation is that the size matters. Takes place at the very least between Deadlock and Tools of Destruction, because it references some stuff from Deadlock, but obviously it's before the Future Saga. And when it comes to Secret Agent Clank, people speculate it might be just the plot of an in-universe movie that they've been filming.
So it could literally be at any point.
The thing is that the plot of the game does not suggest that, and seems to be instead implying that no, it's just another regular adventure that they have and for that occasion, Clank was just, his proper secret agent persona for that.
I feel like part of that may have been because, it being the PSP, I'm guessing, well, the PSP had, let's say, unique titles in the sense that they changed up the gameplay for them, from what I recall, and I think part of that may have been because the PSP might have struggled with the typical...
I have another weapon for Insomniac, a spider. There you go, a spider bot. It can activate, there you go, buttons and explode. So there you go, one of the small ideas that probably inspired some of the gadgets for Spider-Man PS4.
Mm-hmm.
To answer your question, Jova, the PSP Ratchet and Clank games, particularly size matters, obviously. Less so the Secret Agent Clank, because outside of having the traditional gameplay system, you can excuse it as a collection of minigames, sorta. It has the same kind of, attitude that Crash Bandicoot Rapid Cortex has, as in, there are a lot of different gameplay styles and you bounce around them. But at least size matters. It was basically those developers, I forgot their name, that basically had the idea of, let's see if, we can make the same kind of quality of a PS2 Ratchet and Clank games just on the PSP, to see if it can work on the go. The answer is technically yes, but obviously a lot of sacrifices had to be made in terms of stuff like draw distance, maximum enemy variety, and so on. And unfortunately, as you'll be able to eventually see, even on the proper emulation on the PS4, the people who decide to emulate the games prefer to opt for consistency and better resolution for the texture rather than going for performance. So it is basically stuck at 30 FPS, and it kind of shows. Oof. Again, it's not the worst thing ever, and I understand why it's like that, but it's still noticeable.
It's, it definitely sounds like it's a matter of circumstance, which, again, not to say the PSP was a bad system. Oh no, it was a good handheld, but you could definitely tell it was Sony's first ever rodeo in the handheld market.
Yeah.
Compared to the DS, which Nintendo had quite a bit of time to figure out how they handled handheld stuff.
Well, the PSP was technically quite more powerful than the DS hardware-wise.
I'm not talking about power, I'm talking... Well, Pedro, to paraphrase Chucky, it's not about the power, but how you use it.
I guess so.
I mean, to be fair, we see that in a lot of consoles, like, hey, the GameCube actually was one of the more powerful consoles of its generation. Ended up being the least selling, if I recall correctly.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, but that's...
I'm pretty
the
sure
GameCube's
the Virtual Boy was the least selling.
Yeah.
Oh, we're counting the Virtual Boy as part of that generation?
No,
Damn.
but Nintendo consoles.
Yeah, no, but Jova, to be fair, Jova was technically specific talking about that specific generation,
okay.
the 6 one. Well, the GameCube's failure was caused on by various factors. It's the problem is that the early 2000s was the worst time for Nintendo's games to succeed, because remember, that was back when games like GTA 3 and Halo took over the gaming landscape, and M-rated games were at the height of their popularity. And
that's why Nintendo tried to have a piece of that pie with games like Geist.
And getting the exclusivity of the Resident Evil games at the time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I'm not insinuating that the reason it failed was because it was the most powerful one. I'm just strictly saying that, just because something is the most powerful, even more powerful to a counterpart, it doesn't always mean it's going to beat it. Like, the reason the Nintendo DS kind of spanked the PSP, despite the PSP being much more powerful, is, Nintendo had more experience with the handheld market. That's
also,
not to say
the PSP
that...
costed more and was easier to not technically easier to emulate, but easier to crack, sorry.
That's the thing, Jova. If you go back to all the generations of consoles, the most powerful console of said generation has never been the victor. Never. But seriously, you can go back to the Master System. It was technically more powerful than the NES. The NES completely destroyed it.
Didn't the Sega Genesis beat the NES? Well, then again, I guess that depends on if you consider it the same generation
Let me rephrase that.
as the SNES.
Let me rephrase that. The Master System technically beat the NES in Europe, and especially in Brazil. But everywhere else, the NES completely destroyed it. So overall, NES won. Mega Drive / Genesis versus Super Nintendo. Once again, Europe was more into the Mega Drive, but overall, let me put it this way: it was kind of like the closest thing. It's you can make an arguments from one side or the other. Technically, the Super Nintendo was technically more powerful.
It's just that it didn't always show because the Mega Drive.
Never mind. Technically, I forgot. This debate is irrelevant because technically the most powerful console of that generation was the 3DO, and we all know what happened with that console. So,
hey, Spider-Man.
Yeah, basically.
So the 3DO was far more powerful than the Super Nintendo and Mega Drive. Those two consoles completely destroyed the 3DO. Enough said. Next,
3DO. Jesus.
You're going to the next one, the Dreamcast. Far more powerful than the Nintendo 64 and the PS1, and the PS1 completely annihilated.
Wasn't that the PS2 that killed the Dreamcast?
No. Well, technically yes, but here's the thing, Joe. By the time the PS2 came out, the Dreamcast was already dead. So I'm not sure if we could count that as part of the same generation.
I'm pretty sure the PS2 came out nearby the Dreamcast. Let me check.
Well, okay. If you want to get technical, the Sega Saturn was the Sega console that came out at the same time as the PS1. The thing is,
yes,
the PS1
because I think if I recall correctly, it was the Sega Saturn where Sony launched the epic $299 E3 gag again. Wow.
Whoa. Okay. Regardless, the Dreamcast was the most powerful console of its time when it came out. It completely was destroyed by the competition. That's the basic point. You get into the 6th gen, PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. The Xbox was the more powerful of those three. It did beat the GameCube, to be fair, but the PS2, of course, is the highest selling console of all time, so obviously it completely destroyed the other two, obviously.
Okay.
Then you get into the PS3 versus the Xbox 360 and Wii. The PS3, and to this credit, you can argue that the PS3 technically won because by the time the generation ended, the PS3 was technically surpassed the 360 in sales. But let's face it, forgot most. Technically the Wii. Yeah, you can sure. We'll just go with the Wii. The Wii won, and even if you want to put the Wii aside, the 360 still dominated that generation throughout most of it. So it's kind of hard to say that the PS3 really won.
Like, when it comes to that, yes, the PS3 technically eked out at the last minute, but let's be honest, in the spirit of the war, it feels like Microsoft won that generation.
Yeah. Because Sony spent half of that generation trying to catch up, basically. So, but like Jova said, yes, technically the Wii was the one who won out that. But then you get into the next generation, right? Where the well, okay, for the next generation, the Wii U, PS4, and Xbox One. Technically, the PS4 was the most powerful one, so I guess technically that's the one where it did win. Actually, now that I think about it.
Wasn't the Xbox One the most powerful one? Hence
No.
the whole taglines of it being play best on Xbox.
No, that's the Xbox One X. The OG Xbox One was underpowered, as you can even check Digital Foundries, and to the point where a lot of games were 720p compared to the PS4 versions that were always running in 1080p in comparison. The original Xbox One was underpowered. Developers themselves have talked about this. Digital Foundry made videos about it.
I feel like...
So I guess technically you can count... Okay, if you want to count the refreshing consoles, the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, technically the Xbox One X was the most powerful console of that generation, if you want to count the mid-gen refreshes as part of it.
Still, though, I do get what you mean, though. Like, well, people will first think about the Xbox One and the PS4. And yeah, okay, now thinking back to it, yes. The PS4 did arguably have the better specs overall at the time.
Well,
also,
remember, the Wii U was as powerful as a PS3 and more like slightly more powerful than the PS3 and Xbox 360. It wasn't as powerful as the Xbox One and the PS4. So,
but you get the point, like...
Yeah. So, okay, if you want to count, maybe you can say, oh, the Xbox One X was the most powerful console of that generation, obviously because the Xbox One didn't win jack shit, obviously didn't win anything. And now you're getting into this generation where technically the Xbox Series X technically has more power, has more teraflops, but all you have to do is take a look at the sales numbers to see that the Xbox Series consoles are not selling jack. So
got spanked by the Switch, which, I mean, mind you, this was at a time when the companies weren't even thinking Nintendo would be a contender after the Wii U tanked like it did. They came back strong with the Switch, and...
No, I'm agreeing with you. Carry on.
Humming of agreement, Jova. Although, as a side note, starting with the PS3, Xbox 360 era, because of the rise, of digital storefronts, PC digital storefronts, the PC market started being more and more important, and these days, hold on, because we're actually a reach our destination.
What the? This isn't Fizwidget.
Would you like a free proto-pet sample? Available today.
Where is he?
Freeze, knuckleheads!
Oh, no.
The two of
It appears to be a trap.
Arrest for attempting to bump off Mr. Fizwidget.
But this isn't...
Save it, Fuzzy. You're not fooling anyone. You and your metal buddy just earned yourselves a trip to our new prison. Watch this.
Oh, that's
Thugs
nice,
for
I
Less
guess.
Prison would like to wish you a happy incarceration. After a poolside orientation, all new inmates will meet one-on-one with a galactic nutritionist. This professional will ensure that you're eating a species-appropriate diet for your entire stay. Next,
Oh, hi,
come check
Elga.
out our fitness spa with your personal trainer. Remember, a prison term can feel twice as long.
Somebody
if you're
programmed
not
that
in
robot
proper
to have
shape.
saliva.
And for those times when
What
you're
is the
just
ghoul
feeling
doing
lame,
here? Or
come talk it out with
psychiatric
one of our
therapy?
10
No,
full-time
just
life coaches.
no.
They'll help
They
you
hired
find
the
your
best
smile
people
again.
for the job,
Thugs for
apparently.
Less Prison.
Also, you want to know
Experience
something
the
funny?
maximum
The place where
insecurity.
we are right now, the end of the level, if you notice from early on, there's a
What'd you
platinum
think of
bolt
that?
up here in
That
corner.
didn't seem so
But
bad.
because of a cutscene, now
assume
we
you
get
have provisions
basically
for vegetarian
forcefully
meat.
captured to take it to the next
course.
level. So if
Vegan
you
or
want to
fritter-
get that
Wait a
platinum
minute.
bolt, you have to play the
away.
whole level
You found
again.
that ship, too.
I hate when games do stuff like that.
I have no idea why they did that. It's such a dickish maneuver, and the
Well,
franchise,
it's 2000
the games hadn't done that much up until this point.
It was
Yeah.
2003. Who was doing that kind of stuff anymore?
Hey,
Pretty sure that
Anyway,
was no longer a
Sorry.
fake.
I have thoroughly
also to
analyzed
note,
our
the Ratchet,
surroundings,
it's
and I'm
another
afraid
thing
that
that
there is
a
absolutely
character
no
gets
means
captured
of
in a
escape.
cutscene, even if it kind of would have made sense we should have been able to win. But hey, at the very least, the groupie managed to get us out.
I will be right back.
Don't stop for anything along the way.
Which also translates to having another Clank section. Specifically,
I like
the
how-
Transform X ship. Gone.
I like how Ratchet just implied that Clank may try and get some tail while he's out.
I mean, like I said, I guess that there is the charisma of a nerd because Clank scores in this franchise like a lot. Like, I don't know what to say.
That said, shame that the groupie kind of just vanishes. Like,
oh, don't worry,
guess
she will show up again. Don't worry.
Oh, I know that. It's just like, honestly, when I was first playing, I thought, okay, maybe the groupie will, be a playable asset, kind of like these other drones that follow us. But nope, she gone. Gone, girl.
TM.
Sure.
At the very least, some of the assigned, bots are actually, available, like the Hammer one. Go on, Jova.
I guess they were preempting kind of that narrative era in media where nerds were suddenly these cool himbo Chad jocks who, in addition to being ultra smart, could get all the ladies.
To be fair, not necessarily. If you saw with characters like Big Al, they were still running on the stereotype of the nerd that the Simpsons were having with the comic book guy, It was only in the 2010, usually, where because of different events that I will not say, on commentary, the stereotype of a nerd got changed, trying to enforce a more positive appearance by having, the image of instead the Canadian hipster, for lacking a better term, with, of course, the Scottish pattern, shirt, the specific haircut, with beard and, mustache combo, and the glasses. If you played the Y2K or EEK, as it's called, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There you go. You still need the bots to fight the bigger robots, so for the time being you need to avoid them. Anyway, what I was saying before, while not contesting what has been said, it's worth noting that ever since the PS3 era, obviously not as prevalent back then, but with a growing escalation, because of different reasons like the rising of, digital storefront, the PC market has slightly more and more growing to the point where, while it's still, applicable right now, it's not completely certain how much, in general, aside from Nintendo, obviously, the next console generation will fare as a whole. So, we'll be able to see, I guess.
Fair enough. Like, I will say this as somebody who has definitely taken up PC gaming, and I'll admit it saved me quite a lot of money. Like, a gaming laptop can be expensive, but as long as you've got the space, you can be sure a lot of the high-def stuff will eventually come to Steam, basically. So, much get that in the Nintendo...
GOG is a better, alternative at this point, because, as people like to say, the Polish network tends to, score better deals, and right now they have a bit better... Oh, I didn't mention this. You don't get just the Rhino, but also a couple of extra powerful weapons here. The Zodiac... Don't ask me why it's called like that. I guess someone was a fan of Zodiac Killer, which is a screen nuke, which has the same equivalence of when you get a new nanotech. And the Clank Zapper, which basically transforms Clank when he's on your backpack, as your backpack, into a zapping weapon that is irregularly zaps the enemies. That one is actually the weakest of the super weapons and rightfully did not return. But just to finish quickly, Joba, again, GOG tends to have the better preservation right now. Obviously it can change, but right now. Because at the time recording this recently, they managed to have, decent version of stuff like the original 2 Dino Crisis, and they even have right now a program about making people heard what would they want to see on the storefront among, all PC versions that have been discontinued, so that, like I just said, the Polish network can potentially come in contact with publishers and see what they can do about it. But again, not to diss too much Steam, because, at the end of the day, it's still, have a bit of respect enough for Gabe Newell, much more than I could say for Team Sweeney at the very least. But you know, it's still not as perfect as one would want to be.
Hell, Jova, going back to that previous, I can even go like even before the NES era, like because you look at the Atari 2600, like the ColecoVision and the Intellivision were more powerful than the Atari 2600, and the Atari 2600 completely demolished them in terms of dominating the market. So.
Regarding the Dreamcast, I look back, yes, it is considered the first of the 6th generation consoles preceding the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, so yeah, it was competing against those guys.
Well, I guess when it came...
It's a bit weird because by the time that generation properly started, the Dreamcast was already on the way out.
I guess...
Well, the deal is... Okay, like, well, the deal is like, whereas the Dreamcast is the more popular failure, a lot of, you know, Sega's downfall as a console market can be attributed to the Sega Saturn, because now the Sega Saturn, that was arguably, shall we say, the failure behind the mask. And that was also where Sega got humiliated by Sony at that infamous E3 bout where Sony just came up, said $299, and the rest is history.
I mean, I know all that, but I don't see how that's relevant to my point. My point is that, like, usually when I think the 6th generation, I think PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, because the Dreamcast, by the time those three came along, was already on the way out, and Sega was starting to get out of the hardware business.
Well,
go on.
Yes, Theo?
Well, my question in that, Jova, you know, since you found the source, like, who said that? You know, simply asking.
Well, it's officially regarded that way as the 6th generation on, let's see. I mean, I am getting it from Wikipedia,
no, but
to be
usually
fair...
these sources, so that's what I want to know.
Oh, that. Let's see. It doesn't give specifically a source, like, for what says it's part of the 6th generation,
like usually there is a, you know, it's not, like, unless it's a general consensus, which in that case, it's, you know, potentially contestable due to subjectivity. You know, usually eras for stuff like that, or, you know, in a different medium, the comic book eras, gold, silver, bronze, and so on, seems to be more like fandom discourse, which is not a perfect science.
Well, I can't think of any specific site that will, you know, classify what consoles will go to generations. It seems kind of like a bit of a common knowledge thing, but oh wait, hold on. Okay, yes, the University of Michigan Library does officially title the Dreamcast under the 6th generation of gaming.
Alright, meanwhile we found another Omni Ranch. Yes, Ratchet.
You know, why don't you just dual wield?
The thing is that some games will do, like Deadlocked, but not all of them. Yeah, again, it makes you wonder why wouldn't they implement a, you know, dual wield like style. I guess it's because Ratchet, you know, is predominantly right-handed. I guess that's why it would just not be just as good, you know, by wielding another Omni Wrench with his left hand. But I don't know, it still feels like a waste. I mean, I guess it does fit. I guess it does fit with the hyper-consumerism mentality that the Galaxy has. Go on.
So yes, game, way to pay homage to Crash, but yeah, this is one of the segments where Ratchet and Clank have to be separated.
Yeah, you basically have to, you know, jump in between the two characters as they escape from prison. Again, it's a cool. It's a neat idea on paper. It's just the way we got here felt forced more than anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like there's only 3 of those bugs. We could easily clear them with what Ratchet and Clank have shown that they're capable of. Like, now, if I were writing this, I'd say maybe Clank, you know, adheres to the idea that they should go quietly as a means to, like, gain information or something. Like, that would at least make more sense why they just go along when, I'm sorry, Ratchet and Clank are not typically written as the guys who will just, you know,
not to mention their armament. Like, when something similar to this happens in the Jak and Daxter games, I can't believe it more because the gameplay makes absolutely sure that, unfortunately, especially in the later games, despite their effort, Jak and Daxter are basically just surviving with what they have, so I can't believe that it would be more easily captured. But anyway, we got reunited. Anyway, now you need to unlock the magnetic force field that holds your ship, so of course, you know, you need to find a way to actually reach that, I think using the infiltrator. But just
So
to
what you're
mention...
saying to... What?
Just to mention a bit the stuff that you have seen in the meantime, yes, there is a new armor, you know, available. I'll probably get it in between parts. Some of the weapons that have been upgraded, like the bouncer, are just, you know, better. Thankfully, like I said, only the lava gun, you know, is just a disappointment. But, and I also acquired a few new weapons as well, but you'll be able to see them. I mean, in the mini turret, for example, which is exactly as you think it might be. Go on, Pedro.
So what you're saying here is that we need Ratchet to turn off this force field. Now, is it this force field that we're pointing out to, or is the game playing a Superman 64 and not telling us where the force field is?
Regarding that source, regarding the Dreamcast, actually, there's an interesting note to bring up as to why people do consider that the Dreamcast was sort of competing, because one thing the article does mention is that the Dreamcast actually was pretty successful in the United States upon its, you know, landing there, essentially, to the point where they may have had a chance, but what sealed the deal was in 2000 when the PS2 came out. Now, mind you, that is not saying that Sony were the sole people who killed the Dreamcast, even though a lot of people do like to remember it as supposedly doing it, but no.
Sometimes
sadly,
you're
that
your
was
own worst
Sega.
enemy.
Yes.
I think Sega, no, that's okay. Well, see, the thing is, the reason was a bit because when the Dreamcast first came out in 1998, we were still during the PS1 era.
Ratchet, Clank, I hope this gets through to you. I'm transmitting from the Thugs for Less fleet. This ship just returned from a megacorp distribution center, and I think I found the answer to...
Hey,
Okay, for a moment that voice acting sounded like something else, but whatever.
Yeah.
Shit.
Cried.
Don't worry about Angela, she'll be able to take care of herself.
Take her to headquarters.
But yeah, Pedro has a point. That
Did you see
voice
that?
acting
Yes,
thankfully
Angela
ended in
knows how to
something
defeat
as
the
innocent
prototype.
as a sneeze.
And she does a terrible cat impression.
And we have to rescue her from the thugs.
Agreed. We need that answer.
And we have to protect her.
Okay.
Oh?
I will upload the coordinates.
That was very concerning of you, Ratchet. There's something you want to tell us?
Alright, now you can actually get back to the ship, but before doing that, we can have one last major detour for something extra that is hidden here for some reason on the Tux for Lex prison ship. Go on, Pedro, in the meantime.
See, the thing about the Dreamcast is that Sega destroyed the reputation of their brand as in terms of consoles, because all they had to do when the Genesis slightly started getting ahead of the Super Nintendo in terms of market share was keep going as they were. But no, instead they started throwing shit at the wall unnecessarily.
Hey, look, it's the plumber.
Here's the
How
problem.
did he got here?
Excuse us, sir. What are you doing here? In this galaxy?
I can't control where things break. I just fix them.
Surely someone in this...
I notice we're running into a lot of familiar faces from the previous galaxy now, aren't we?
I get triple time.
The plumber has this kind of, you know, quasi fourth wall breaking kind of thing, so... Also, there was a quark action figure stuck in the toilet.
Good quark action
Ew.
figure. Sure, it's a little ripe, but look at that craftsmanship. You want to buy it?
Sure,
There you go,
20,000
pal. See you in
volts, I
another year
guess.
or so.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, see you next
Highway
next
robbery.
game. But yeah, that means we have a poor memorabilia, so let's trade into the stupid fanboy.
I'm taking the captain home before the humidity gets
He has
to
no
him.
idea where that's been.
Alright, at the very least we got the magnetizer. That's like in the first game, it attracts bolts that are far away. So, at the very least we can have the consolation that we don't have to see the fanboy ever again. Oh, fuck, no!
It was a valiant attempt, Theo.
Also, let's get the armor while I'm at it.
And an attempt was made.
There you go. The Dura plate armor. Now this is actually an armor that I like. Orange and with different actual threat of stratum, you know.
They released a Sega CD, which had a shit ton of influx of FMV games. Yes, they had good games like Lunar and other games, but you have to understand, Sega marketed the shit out of the FMV games, so obviously that's all people knew at the time, right? Then they released the fucking 32 acts only 1 year before the Sega Saturn came out. So basically, that console got like 30 games tops, and a year later, here comes another console for you to buy. I literally just bought this console. Now you want to. So basically, at that point, Sega, combined with the fact that they were also not releasing Sonic games after Sonic 3, it kind of. And by the time the Dreamcast came out, Sony basically came in and took over as the new hot kid in the block. So by the time the Dreamcast came out, despite the fact of a great console it was too little too late by that point.
Alright, then see you for the next part where we travel to that place where Angela was. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.